All right, let's take a look at question number 22. We need to graph each one of these equations. So I'm going to write this down there as y equals 4x minus 3. When I go ahead and graph this equation, as we talked about before, this number right here is my slope. And when I look at it, think of it as 4 over 1. This number right here, not just that number, but that whole number with the sign. That is my y-intercept. So now that I have my slope and my y-intercept, now I can graph it. So looking at the graph, we already have it numbered. And now I have to put that information on the graph. So I'm first going to put on that number, the -3, as my y-intercept. So I'm looking at my graph. Here it is 0, and I'm going to go down to -3. Between -2 and -4, you have a -3. Now I have to do my slope. My slope is 4 over 1, which means I'm going to go up 4 and 1 over to the right. So starting down here, at this point right here, I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1, put a dot. I have 2 dots on my graph. I like to do another one to have a better graph. So I'm going to go up 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, over 1. Now that I have 3 points on my graph, now I'm going to take a ruler and draw this as straight as I can, going through all those points on the graph. So this is how your graph should look when you finish. Looking at question number 23. I already made my XY chart just in case you don't remember how y equals 2 looks on my graph. One way you can do it to double check, they're telling you y equals 2, so I'm going to put down 3 2's right away. Because they're telling me y equals 2. Over here on x, I can make it anything I like, so I just pick the first 3 small numbers, 0, 1, 2. So now I have in my graph ordered pairs 0, 2, 1, 2, and 2, 2. To graph those, I need to put those on the graph. Now to graph this, I have my table all set up. I have my graph. The center is 0. And now I have to graph 0, 2. Starting at 0, move up to 2 and put a dot. My next point, 1, 2. I'm at 1. Plotted at 2. And my last point, 2, 2. Go over to 2 on the x-axis and go up to 2 on the y. Now I have 3 dots on my graph. I can go ahead and graph all those points together. And that would be my graph. The other way is, if you remember that this graph right here, y equals 2, means that your point is going to be at 2 on the y-axis, and your line is going to go through that point. So if you remember that quick rule, you would know right away that's what your graph looks like. If you didn't, you could go ahead and do your XY chart and go ahead and graph those points to figure it out. So let's take a look at question number 4. This is the point slope formula. And that's when we have the y minus y1 equals m x minus x1. Looking at this graph right here, we have to figure out which numbers go where. I need a slope And I need a set of ordered pairs being x and y. x1, y1. So when I'm looking at my equation, I'm going to find out which one is my slope. M correlates to the 2 outside the parentheses, so that is my slope. I'm going to look for the x1, this number right here. In your chart, x1 is right here. It shows it as a -1, so I'm just going to do the opposite of -1. It's going to be a positive 1. Make sure that you're putting the x in first in that blank. Your second blank is your y. Your y is right here, as it shows in your equation. That's a positive 3. You're actually going to take it out the opposite, which is -3. Now I have a point, and I have a slope. Now I can graph this information. Now to graph this information, I'm going to put this point on the graph first. So here's my x and here's my y. I'm going to graph starting at the 0 center. 1, -3. -3 is between -2 and -4. My slope is 2, but I like to write it as a fraction because that tells me I have to go up 2, and I always go to the right. So starting at this point here, I'm going to go up 2, 1, 2, over 1, put a point. Up 2, over 1, put a point. I have 3 points on my graph. I'm going to take my handy dandy ruler and draw a line through those points. And that is how my graph should look. Looking at the next problem. Looking at problem number 25. In this problem, I'm going to set up the equation x plus 4, y equals 10. I need to find the x-intercept and the y-intercept. In order to do that, if I make x equals 0 in this equation, I'll find out what y equals. So I'm going to substitute 0 in for x, and then rewrite the equation. And then I'm going to solve for y. 0 plus 4y just equals 4y, equals 10. If I have a number next to a letter, and I want to get that letter by itself, I have to divide both sides by that number. By doing that, those cancel out, and I get y equals 10 over 4. So if I'm looking at this as an ordered pair, when x is 0, y is 10 over 4. Now I'm going to go back and do the equation again, but this time I'm going to make y equals 0. So when I rewrite that equation, I'm going to have x plus 4 parentheses. This y is going to go inside the parentheses. So y equals 0 equals 10. Then I go back and rewrite and do the equation. I have x plus 4 parentheses 0, which means I need to multiply these two, which equals 0, equals 10. X plus 0 equals x equals 10. So when y equals 0, x equals 10. Now I have to graph this information. Looking at my information, I need to graph 10, 0. So looking at my graph, already marked up for you, x is 10. I go to 10 on the x-axis and put a dot. So 10, 0 is located there. As you can see, I changed 10 over 4 I divided that and came up with 2.5. So now I have to graph 2.5 on my graph. So I find 0, 2.5, 0's in the middle. I go up to 2.5. Here's 2, here's 4, 2.5 is something around there. Now that I have 2 points on the graph, I take out my handy-dandy ruler and go ahead and graph those 2 points.